Hey team, welcome back to another great episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and I am on here today with my new friend, Ali Cox with Noble West. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
I'm excited to dive into this. You get the same opening question that we all do. What does it mean for you, Ali, to be intentional?
I think that is like the name of my game, and it always has been. I'm definitely a type A straight shooter. I think a lot of that might come from my upbringing as a fifth generation farmer on both sides of my family, right? But I think really it is saying what you mean and meaning what you say, and then putting in the work to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to do something, do it well. And I think as an accomplished athlete and now 17 years into my professional career, I have a pretty good track record of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to my team, don't be careful with your goals that you share with me, because I am actually going to manage you to them, and I am going to hold you accountable, and we are going to performance plan around these, because if it's your goal, then it becomes my goal, and nothing is like, I'm not really driven by like outside competitors. I'm more driven by my insides, right? So that's all about kind of intentional goal setting. And as soon as I put it out there, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill myself trying to do it, which that's, I think, part of like my never say no kind of upbringing.
I love it. And I think, obviously your performance history backs this up. I'm pretty sure you're the first Olympic medalist that I've had on the show. If anybody else had one, they didn't tell me about it.
Well, if anybody else had an Olympic medal and they were on your show and they didn't tell you, props to them. That just means you're like actually a cooler person.
Yeah. So you were on the rowing team.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And just tell us a little bit of that story. It would be super cool to hear. By the way, like, my interest in rowing is this. I enjoy it. I won the Omaha. I'm going to brag on myself for a minute. Back when, like 5 years ago, I won the Omaha Indoor City Rowing Championship. So
Mark, what did you pull?
657.
Not bad.
Ish.
Not bad.
As a guy who just goes to the gym and then pushes hard.
Not bad at all.
I don't know. I have no idea whether that's good but it was enough to win Omaha.
Well, congratulations. No, that's not a bad score at all.
Sure. It was fun. I was exhausted. But yeah,
I beat you by a lot, but it's still,
I'll receive that. I'll receive that. Maybe sometime I can get some coaching tips on how to row better.
Anytime, send me a video.
Love it. So give us the backstory. How did you go from fifth generation farmer on both sides in California to rowing in the Olympics?
Okay, well, I will give you the abridged version. There are lots of other podcasts out there that really kind of blow the story out. But I think that the short story is, I was walking on campus my sophomore year of college at the University of San Diego, and a coach came up to me and she's like, "Hey, you'd be a great rower. Would you want to try out for crew?" And I had my grandfather was a big time athlete at Cal. He's a strong farm boy and could lift like a bale of hay with one arm. And he and his twin brother were the captains of the Cal football team. And in their fraternity at Cal Berkeley was a bunch of rowers, and he always liked them. So in high school, when I turned out to be 6 feet tall, he's like, "You know what, Ali, you really should think about rowing. You're so tall." And we had such nice friends that were on the rowing team and the crew. And so that kind of was locked in the back of my mind. And then when she said it, I was like, I was super athletic in high school. I was a 12-time letterwoman in Turlock High School. So I was like, I know I'm athletic. I know I'm coachable. I like being on a team. I like sports. I know how to show practice. I'm a gamer. Like, I get it. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I did. And then I just ended up being great. And how I was first identified was my rowing score on the ergometer. So, now I didn't win any Omaha like opens, but I did pretty well, and then was asked to try out for the U.S. team when I graduated. Actually, before I graduated, I made the under 23 world championship team. And then after that, kind of kept making teams. I moved to the East Coast, trained full time, which is 7 days a week, and made the 2004 Olympic team. And I was in the women's 8. and we won a silver
Women's
medal,
8. Okay. Yeah.
which is the first time the women won a medal at the Olympics in
Really?
20 years. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's the
congratulations.
short
That's awesome.
story. So
Yeah.
again, if you give me a goal, you got to be careful because I really am going to like, that actually means something to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I mean, we can go for 1,000 downloads on this episode if you want. Promote the heck out of it. Let's go. Like, I'm for it. Now that's really, really cool. So one of the reasons I wanted to dive into that just a little bit is I can only imagine the level of precision that has to happen to be able to row at those speeds when you have 8 people in that little tiny, I don't know, boat's not even the right word, right? I mean, yeah, like boat, right? So, I mean, just can you just talk, like, how do you get the team? How does the coach get the team, or what is the process
Well,
for?
let's break this down.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's 8 rowers and there's 1 coxswain, so there's 9 people.
correct. Yep.
Now, in order for a crew to row really well and fast and efficiently to hit their potential, it would be the same as if you lined up 8 golfers
Mm-hmm.
and they hit the ball, all 8 golfers hit the ball with the exact same swing at the exact same time, at the exact same place on the ball, and the ball went to the exact same distance.
Yeah.
So that is why, like, the technical side, not to mention the anaerobic and aerobic side, is so important. So that's where that's like, it's a precision that is like, anybody can go out there and sort of splash around, and that's all well and good, and they should, and that is good. Go do that. But in order to really perfect it, it is thousands and thousands of hours of strokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's so wild.
Yeah.
So wild. I've never, rowed in that capacity on the water. Like I said, I was just, I got into rowing at the gym, and then there was a competition. So I went one weekend, and it was fun.
Like Mark, I like that about you.
Yeah. But my dad was in the wholesale fishing bait space, right? That was our family business. And so we would lease thousands of acres of water in north central Minnesota. And my job was to go trap leeches. And my dad wouldn't let me use a motor. Right. So my Christmas present was a 6-foot set of oars, and to go row our little 10-foot John boats around. So just carrying all this equipment, and so I have.
Were you like breaking ice with those oars? I mean, I can't.
Early in this, because you're trying to get out there as early as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep.
That is so dangerous, by the way. And if anybody's listening, please don't do that.
Yeah, no, not a great idea. But we had a lot of memories. I spent a lot of time on the water, a lot of time rowing, but not competitively. So super. As you were telling the story, I'm like, I wonder if she was on a team. And then you said you were. I'm like, yeah. I have to know. Like, what is it like? Because you just think about to think about the show from an intentional leadership standpoint. To get even just a few people in a small business pulling in the same direction on projects and deadlines and levels of excellence, with our little team of 4 of us working here full time. I mean, it's like, so much communication, and we were, my wife and I were for a walk this morning, just talking through, like, hey, how do we up level the level of excellence? Where is our communication failing? What is it? What do we do? How do we get there? Right. And I mean, to have that level of precision with 8 people for that long, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, even if you've got 2 people in a partnership, I mean, even think about a marriage, right?
Yeah.
Like, both people are motivated by, you might have common goals, but how you get to those goals is probably pretty different. How you approach stress is different. How you approach risk is different. How you approach teamwork is different. I mean, and we're not even talking about work ethic, right? I think work ethic is probably the most consistent thing amongst most people. It's all the other nuances. And that's where a really great coach and a really great team captain, and honestly, a great team manager, that's where you can really understand, like, look, it's going to take all types. And that's the thing about rowing. And especially at at the elite level, unlike in college and high school, where the coaches are sort of tasked with developing, they're tasked with sort of developing, like, people, right? Like, it's not just about learning the sport. They also need to develop and are kind of judged on, like, how successful these athletes go on to be, and, like, how the alumni program, all that. And that's awesome. Now, when you get to the elite level, that's when it is so cutthroat. The coach is like, how many tools do I have from the toolkit? And how can I make these tools work to better? And if some of them break, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like where
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole different thing. And that's where I just sort of think that the team gels in such different ways, and that's where sort of like using the skills. And I mean, and the thing that always is the most amazing to me, and I think this completely translates to how I run Noble West, is the 8 strongest people are not necessarily the 8 people you want in the boat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You want the 8 people that work the best together, who have the most complementary skill sets. Some are amazing technicians, but aren't as strong. Some are incredibly strong, but aren't as great technically. Like that's where it's like, how do you sort of how do you sort of vision cast what your expectations are, and then make sure to like recruit that kind of talent? I know that for me, I use, just to kind of find blind spots. So I'm not only recruiting people exactly like myself,
Mm-hmm.
is like we use strength finders. I've used the working genius. I've used the Enneagram. Like there's a lot of tools out there that I think are helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes all types to make a team run, right?
Yeah.
And I think the people that I
100%.
typically didn't understand their skills as well before I started doing this were kind of more the folks that had like the softer skills. Like they were like the enablers. They were the less vocal people on the team, but holy cow, that didn't mean they weren't working hard. They were just working in a way that like maybe I wasn't aware of.
Sure. Yeah. 100%. 100%. John Anderson from our team and I, we did a 2-part series that just came out this last couple of weeks on our Thursday teaching episodes. And, we talked about we have so many people, last year at one point we had 250 employees from various companies around the agriculture industry enrolled in our coaching programs that our various coaches are working with. And what we learn as we go back and look through the conversations that we have on our side of the table, talking about what clients need, is there's several things that employees tell us that they don't always tell their boss. So we learn about it there. They're usually based off of mistakes that managers are making, but they don't always know it. And so we kind of made a whole list, and the top 2 of the 5, and you guys can go back and listen to those episodes to get the whole list. There's actually 6 that we talked about. But the top 2, number 1 is clear expectations. And then number 2 is clear direction. Right. Clear expectations and clear direction. These are the biggest mistakes that most leaders, most managers are making within their team, present party included. I screw this one up frequently. So we have to go back and get better with that. But
can I jump in for a second though?
Yeah,
I want to get the leaders here because I hear that too.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to share that those are probably also the employees that are telling the leaders, like, I don't want to be micromanaged. You always tell me what to do. You're not empowering me. You don't give me enough space to make mistakes. So I just want to say that I hear and see the leaders who are like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get that complaint all the time, but it is so hard to do that well in a way that if you don't have a vulnerable, trust-based relationship with that employee, for whatever reason, it will implode. It will, because that with that kind of feedback, it comes like, well, a month ago, you liked working in the gray. Now, a month here, you're looking for black and white. Like, how do I and then also at the end of the day, like when it's all said and done, is this making us any money? And because I know you want to raise. So I
Yeah. Well, so
it's hard to be the boss, and I think everybody needs to take a beat. And that's why I love this podcast and I love the work you're putting out there because I think it's really balanced. But I have a hard time with like the Adam Grants and a lot of like the business coaches out there. It's like, I appreciate the LinkedIn memes and all that about like bosses, but there are so many tough calls that have to be made all the time. And also like vanilla willy-nilly changes that happen with the workforce that it's like, sure, expectations and vision casting, that's one thing. But then do you have the right people on the bus, and are they in the right seats in order to make that all come? That's where teamwork really comes in.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that, actually. And so what's interesting, if you guys go listen to the episode, we get into that in points 3 and points 4, right? Okay. About like actually like one of the biggest mistakes is just not curating the right space or the right types of conversations with people. Because people love it at first. They're like, oh, it is. I have all this autonomy. when they don't have clear, it's like, here's roughly the job. Let's go get it. You got all the freedom to go make it happen. People love the autonomy. They come back to the table a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, lost. Right. And this is where the lack of intentionality, it's like we want to give people autonomy, but the reality is, Ali, a lot of people are giving their teams autonomy, not because they don't want to give them more direction or actually guide them with clearer direction over time. They're too busy. There's too much going on. There's already too much on the plate. And now I'm adding people, and I actually don't have the hours, the minutes in the day to sit down and strategically think. We just ran a Thriving Leader event in Indianapolis this week. I just got home from it. And this was the biggest thing. Like we asked the question, we put a flip chart on the wall that people kind of answer as they walk in the room. They're like, if I had more capacity, I would ... And then they fill in the blank. If I had more capacity, this is what I would do. And out of 10 people in the room that day, 7 of them had something related to thinking more, being more strategic, take more time to plan. So what's that tell me? 7 out of 10 people aren't getting it done. So there's, it's very, very hard to create intentional structure for people when I don't have time to sit down and plan a little bit more around what they could
But
do.
also, okay, if that's your blocker, because I'm hearing that as blockers. You get that. If that's your blocker, then tell me what your real blockers are. Like, are you not able to get through the work? Are you delegating enough? Are you managing your team well enough? Are you focused on the right things? What's the vision for the quarter? What's the team goal? Like, how is what you're doing and how you're spending your time laddering it up? Are the briefs not specific enough? What do we need more admin support? Like, you tell me what that is, and but be proactive about it.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And, but if that's the point of the program, is to help people figure that out. Right. So, great sales pitch though. I appreciate it. So love it. Okay. We skipped over this at the beginning because we just got so deep into this right away, talking about rowing and leadership and all the thing. Talk to me a little bit about let's give everybody, okay, who's Ali? What's Noble West? Where are you at? What are you doing?
Sure. Well, I'm Ali Cox, and I am from the Central California, and our family grows specialty crops. We're in the nut business. We are in some row crops, mostly fresh produce. We have stone fruit as well, and we have beef cattle. And my husband and I founded a farm management company and a tree nut harvesting company, and we're raising 2 little ranchers, and they're quite something. And professionally, I own my own marketing agency, and we are an agriculture specialty shop. So we work in what I like to say, we work in the future of food, the future of ag. We do a lot of work in ag technology. We work with commodity boards. We work across about 15 different crop types right now. Wow. We have international clients, and what's really been probably one of the more kind of surprising and exciting parts of my career development and trajectory is just we've sort of become a sustainability shop by way of agriculture. And that's something that I love working on, because nobody respects the past more than I do, and kind of what it took to get our family to get to this place and my community. But what got us here is not going to get us there. And I understand that. I also understand that it's, more expensive to farm today than it was 3 years ago by 30%, and 60 by 10. And so I get the whole thing. And that's where really just Noble West really exists, because I want farmers to be compensated more for their hard work and their investment and the risk that they're taking. And then I also believe consumers deserve to know more about where their food came from. And they deserve to know more about what it takes for them to receive and purchase food. So this is a mission-driven business, and it's really just a blessing to be able to do what I do, especially across. We work a lot internationally, and a lot with our in California alone, there's 400 specialty crops that are grown and marketing through the California marketing order. So there's a lot to do, right? And we've expanded really quickly into parts of the Midwest and Idaho.
Wonderful. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. We need to do more work on sorghum. I've had 2 podcasts just on sorghum specifically because I'm a gluten-free guy,
Mhm.
and that became more important to me in the
Well,
in the
I am
recent
working
years.
on 2
So,
sorghum projects right now, Mark.
oh yeah,
So
awesome.
happy to talk more about sorghum anytime.
That's great. I love that you're kind of standing in that gap between knowing that we need good, strong, profitable farmers, and then also educating
Yeah.
the consumer, right? And just really being that bridge. So
Yeah.
great. That's
Because if
great.
I'm being honest, Mark, those are the 2 folks that are getting screwed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the middle is making money off of what's happening at the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
then the folks at the end are standing in the grocery store going, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that is where this messy middle, I think if there was stronger brand positioning, if there was stronger campaign work, if there was more marketing, if there was more actual like articulation about what is needed, I feel like there is a lot that could be sorted out because there's a lot of gray zone and between brokers, retailers, wholesalers, you name it. And that's where, like, if we always say, like, tell your story, right? As soon as you leave any conference in agriculture, the final words are always, we got to tell our story. Nobody actually knows how to do that.
Yep.
And I don't believe it's just on the farmer's back. I believe
Right.
it's like the middle of it. And that's where we're kind of really kind of pushing some buttons and opening and exposing
Yeah.
and also just strategic marketing.
Mm-hmm. I 100% concur. We do a lot of sales training with ag retail organizations and ag manufacturers, and
Mhm.
you know we have actual training modules on this where we're just talking about how to
Mhm.
actually position yourself as a salesperson, right? So
Mhm.
what are you doing to be out there promoting? Most people are going to sit back and wait for their company to do it
Mhm.
for them on the company Facebook page, the company TikTok, the
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
LinkedIn page, et cetera, et cetera. But there are a few and far between, and very, very far between, and very, very few. But there are a few that do a great job of promoting themselves as an ag retail salesperson, maybe through
I think
Snapchat
they're
or
called
through
influencers now.
what's yeah exactly. And so but it's been a gripe of mine, right? And what a great opportunity for that person who's supporting the farmer, right, who's in that middle part that you're talking about,
Mhm.
to be able to support at least that end of the conversation, or inform their the end consumer more about their part, in
Mhm.
that role, so that you could understand. Most
Mhm.
people wouldn't understand, at least in the ag retail space across most of row crop America, that there's 4 different levels to this whole distribution thing. That's just getting product to the farmer.
Right.
We're not even getting into the food distribution side. So
Right.
there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts. Most Americans, most people in the world can't begin to understand the complexity of
Mhm.
taking something from a seed to something on the
Mhm.
store shelf.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we got into this leadership thing. I want to come back to this a little bit because we always ask some questions around culture and team building and things like that. So talk to me a little bit from your experience. Building a business. You've been in some non-ag organizations. You've had some really
Mhm.
high level team experiences.
Mhm.
Riff on culture building for me. From what are you doing inside your business to build great culture? How important is this to you?
Mhm.
Yeah, and anything you can share, I think, and then I'll pick that. We'll see where I can go with that.
Okay. Well, here's my big takeaway on culture. Because I've done it a couple different ways, and I feel like I've learned now that it's been 17 years of kind of self-employment, or self-employment / growing a business.
Mm-hmm.
Happy hours are fun. Cool offices are nice. Perks are fun. That's all good. That's all well and good. And is it going to keep somebody at your company? No. Is it going to make them loyal? No. Is it going to like improve profitability? No. It just kind of becomes like an expectation,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that when we talk about culture and what we talk about like building culture, to me, it's more about how are people and processes up for success? How are we rolling out? How do we support with performance growth? How can we show people a path to making more money, having more responsibility, and accomplishing goals that evolve every year?
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is culture. And once we established our mission, vision, and values as an organization and became real crystal clear on that, it really kind of I think it galvanized the whole team around being more open about who they want to be and realize that this is an organization and a culture that is definitely from the top down that like embraces sort of growth. And we're not trying to pigeonhole anybody here. I want everybody to make more money. I want everybody to see a path to partnership. I want, that is something that is really, really important to me. And one way I'll demonstrate that that is so important to me is that we rolled out a quarterly profit bonus. It's based on gross profit. It's not on net, it's on gross, because I'm making, at the end of the day, I'm making all the bigger calls. So this is on, gross, how we service our contracts. And that's something where our teams earn a gross profit bonus. And sometimes, and it hasn't been huge, but it's been something that shows that like we are valuing everybody's contribution so much so that we want to reward them in a quarterly basis. And that to me is our culture. Like that's more culture. So the happy hours, the this, the that, the fun stuff, that's all well and good. And I think that's a nice to have, but it's not culture. And I think that there's just a lot of, a lot of confusion around that. And the more fun I see things, and don't get me wrong, we have fun. We go on, we're a remote company, so we do offsites. Like it's a time, right? But it's only a time if somebody's enjoying and feeling validated and enjoying their work environment.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love the intention behind it. I mean, at some point we have to pick whatever the culture is going to be. You're the leader. You can drive it. It's up to you. Yeah. But just like pick a horse and ride it, man. I mean, it's like, and implement it.
And you have to figure out, and I think you got to go through the peaks and valleys before you know that and feel confident in it. Right. Because for the first 7 years, and we were just we were a local business, it was a way different culture. It was hey, I'm going to pick coffee up for everybody and we're going to do this and potlucks and, all sorts of stuff. And that's all fun and that's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the culture. And I think that I think I had to learn the hard way. Yep. Because then it felt like a family was breaking up when people left versus now it feels like if somebody doesn't like the way we do things, I want to wish them well. And I hope that they go out and if somebody reaches out to them about Noble West, I hope they share the good stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the goal, but I am big on not making the business the family.
Totally.
I made this mistake hardcore in my pre-2020 business. We were very reliant on live events. So 2020, 2021 didn't treat us great from a revenue perspective. And we called it the family. It was back then we were called MJST, Mark Jewell Speaking and Training, MJST. It was the MJST family, right? And we were close and we knew a lot about each other and we were very supportive of one another. We did a lot. We went through the very, very beginning to a nice growing business. And then it got hard.
Yeah.
And then some people had to get let go. And, we went through a tough go. And part of it was economy. Part of it was decisions. You make mistakes. But at the end of the day, when the family stopped getting paid, I stopped getting calls. And that's what happens. It's a business. We're a team, we're trying, like we said in the beginning, it's not necessarily about having all the best players. It's having the right players that want to pull together and be a part of the culture that you, as the leader, as whether it's the regional manager, the CEO, the GM, the whatever level, that you're creating. So I love it.
Right. But the thing is, Mark, that's how businesses grow.
Yeah.
But I'd also argue, and you have the data behind this, that's also why ag businesses fail. And they've got people that, and then I understand it. Yeah. You've got garnishments, you've got people living on ranch houses. Like, I understand it feels like you are watching each other's kids grow up. But at the end of the day, it really is a business. And I think you have to go through let's call it the family stage in order to first grow a business. Yeah. Because that's what's needed. And then you go into the team business and then you go into the enterprise level, right? Exactly. And that's, and growing through that is definitely the most challenging, and agency life is no different.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Speaking of tough times, sometimes, what's been one of those tough moments for Ali that you've gone through? One of those big challenges that you've had to overcome over the course of your career. We're going to go through this one, another one, and try to do a little bit of a speed round here before we totally run out of time today. But okay. I want to know a little bit about, what's been one of those tougher times? What's been one of those big wins for you?
Tougher time was definitely last year when I had to lay off some people.
Mm.
And I needed to do a round of layoffs. We were too top heavy. We were too overhead heavy. Too much money was going out to non-revenue producing folks. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
challenge and it was hard. And there were family feelings involved. And
Mm-hmm.
that was tough. And, but it also was an opportunity to really like pivot and double down on our why as an
Yeah.
organization, and culture. A big win right now is just clarity. Like we've got a really great executive leadership team. I've just brought on a creative partner as an executive creative director. So I have kind of two vested leaders within the organization, which has been phenomenal. We've also expanded significantly into Idaho. We're doing a lot of work in the region, which has been really, really so rewarding. And I think just the third thing that I'm super excited about right now is I've been building kind of like, I'm calling it the ESG paradigm. I don't think that's the final name. I think that's the working title, but just like
Mm-hmm.
a real paradigm, how brands, manufacturing businesses, and then also eventually more institutional businesses can leverage sustainability reporting, can leverage honestly the work they're already doing that is so pivotal and important, especially when the on-farm changes are made. That's the thing that I think pulls on my heart is like these farmers are making these incredible multi-million-dollar investments on farm and technology, drip, soil monitoring software. I mean, all of these things, how do they get a return on investment? And this is a way that if we could like package up those wins and
Mm-hmm.
kind of see them through, I think that that's something that I really just want to see happen kind of
Yeah.
immediately. So
Yeah.
lots of great stuff happening, but honestly, those layoffs. But the thing about the layoffs is they were really, really hard to go through, and it was
Mm-hmm.
hard on our culture and our business. However, just getting kind of a monkey off my back gave me some room to actually think about our why and make some
Mm-hmm.
really, really like larger investments within the business that made fiscal sense.
You bet.
So that was hard, but also great at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. None of that is ever easy. A lot of us have either been on the giving or receiving end or both of
Yeah.
that conversation. And there's
Yeah.
nothing great about it. At the end of the day, though, we have to do what's best for the business and to preserve as much as we can. We all go through falls and winters,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're all going to experience a fall and a winter. Things are going to die off. We have to go through a little bit of a tough time, but guess what? Spring's around the corner.
I mean, I think the other analogy there is pruning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, especially like trees and vines, right? You have to prune in order to see
Yep.
like organic growth. And that's definitely what we did.
Yeah. Beautiful. What is the best resource for motivation or mindset that you have read or book that you're like, Mark, you need to read this?
You know, I am definitely a podcast junkie. So I get a lot of my information from podcasts, especially because I'm on the road and traveling a lot to customers. And then if I'm not on the road and I'm not sitting at my desk, I'm walking to try to remain, some semblance of health. So that's definitely part of it. I don't know, a book that really opened up my eyes though, and this is not novel, you've already read it, I'm sure, is just like the Jim Collins, like Good to Great.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great one. I think also the E-Myth, another kind of staple.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's on your bookshelf back there.
Mm-hmm.
Like another, like E-Myth was really great. That super helpful.
Yeah.
And then I just, I read a lot of marketing stuff. So, and I think it's really critical. And I don't know if all the people that follow here is like curating your social media to serve you is something I strongly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
So following the right people, following the content. So that way you're learning on a daily basis, I think is essential, because as a leader, we just get so much bad news all the time. How do you kind of create like a space that's sort of inspiring? Because if I'm not inspired on the daily, this job becomes pretty oppressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think that I know that a lot of the folks listening have some influence, at least over their personal social media, if not their business social media. And a lot of y'all are missing the boat on some great opportunities out there right now. And I'm not talking about just waiting for your marketing interns or your marketing agency or whatever to do it. Like there's just some things. And so I'm going to encourage you guys to go check out Noble West and find out what Ali and her team are doing to help companies like you be, she's standing in that gap. They're standing in that gap between the grower and the consumer and doing a great job of it. So Ali, thanks for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure. We could go super long form with our conversation today. But this has been great.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.